Good evening, everybody. My name is Bhavani, and I'm the director of Nature Nudge. We are a local Singapore company, and we work in the area of fresh fermented probiotics, drinks, and foods. Okay, we create them naturally, handcrafted locally. What we'd like to continue today is the second in the series of why probiotics are so important for you. Today, we are going to talk about the whole concept of leaky gut and how that can majorly influence our health. Okay. What we saw in the first video was that we used to have a lot of interaction with nature. There were a lot more natural births, natural vaginal births, and not just cesarean section births in such large numbers. These were the two ways that we used to get a lot of natural inflow of good bacteria quite seamlessly in life. But what has happened is that since those two sources have reduced in their interaction, what ends up happening is that we end up having not as much good bacteria, and that space is now left open. So instead, what happens is that bad bacteria actually starts proliferating. The second aspect of our health, which is very critical, is the fact that we end up having quite a bit of sugars and refined foods. So you must know one balance is that having too much of sugars and refined foods leads to a beautiful bed for bad bacteria to multiply and thrive. And having a lot of fiber leads to good bacteria thriving. Now imagine in your gut what is happening is that as it is, we don't have as much interaction with nature. As it is, there are lots more C-sections, and now add in sugar and refined foods. So there is bad bacteria thriving much more in our intestines. And very little good bacteria coming in. Ideally, our body wants that balance. What happens is if that balance is out and we do not have enough inflow of the good one coming, the bad occupies much more space. Now, I'd like to show you this taken forward through an illustration on how this goes through to leaky gut. Okay. This is a brilliant illustration of what leaky gut is all about. Inside our intestines, there are mucosal cells, and these mucosal cells by nature are quite closely bound together, almost like bricks in a way, and very tight junctions between each so that nothing gets out of the intestines through these cells. However, when there is inflammation, what happens is they separate out, and obviously food particles and bacteria which are in the bloodstream, which are inside the intestines, now get into the bloodstream and start causing autoimmune disorders. As you saw there, as the mucosal cells start separating and inflammation sets in, these blood bacterial cells as well as food particles that get into the bloodstream now start causing an autoimmune response from the body. Think of it like a plastic sheet which is supposed to hold water in, but as those little holes that are there in the plastic are now letting the water out, imagine that as the food particles and bacteria getting into the bloodstream through those tiny little holes that are there in the intestinal walls. Now, as it gets into the bloodstream, the body thinks it is under attack, and it triggers off an autoimmune response. And again, it thinks it is under attack as every little leakage that happens into the bloodstream. And therefore, there is a lot of stress that's created in the body. Now, there are lots of examples of autoimmune disorders like celiac disease, lupus disease. You would think that these big ones, eczema, these are the only ones which are caused by leaky gut. But many diseases are associated with leaky gut. Things like even weight gain, even sleep deprivation, sleep issues, black circles, for an example. Let me just get you a list, and some of them, even things like Parkinson's, which are associated and connected to leaky gut in lots of ways. So this is not a causal relationship. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, autism, ADHD, these are mental dysfunctions. And some more, like thyroid, for an example, hormonal dysfunctions. These are also very deeply connected to gut imbalance of good and bad bacteria and leaky gut as a concept. So what we want to tell you is that it is very important to fix this by putting a regular inflow of good bacteria into the system, so that the level of bad bacteria is controlled to an extent. Okay, In the next video, we will talk about trying to understand how we overcome leaky gut. Many of us, whether we believe it or not, or we have actual dysfunctions in our body, many of us suffer from leaky gut, even quite unaware of it. But next video, we will talk about how to get good bacteria, whether you should get them from probiotic pills or fresh fermented foods. So let's talk about that next time, and we'll see you again.